All right, this is part 2 of the watercolor video. We're going to talk a little bit about layering. Again, complex color. You can see this object here is looking pretty nice, but it's all one color, just various tones of that one color. I've used a little bit of cross-hatching there, so it'd be kind of neat to maybe complexify that thing a little bit. I know I keep saying that word. I don't even know if that's actually a word, but we're going to make the color a little more rich and interesting. So we can do it through cross-hatching other colors into that. So then I'm going to add some blue and cross-hatch or hatch that in. You can hear my son is watching something on Disney Plus right now in the background, so I hope that's not too distracting. Okay, so that's one way to get some interesting color things to happen. All right. Another one is called glazing. So if you've got an area that's dry, and this is all completely dry right here, of an undercoating of some color, and if my goal was to make this area a greenish tint, it's kind of nice to put a light blue undertone and then go in with a yellow glaze. And yellow is a great color to glaze with because it's very transparent. The idea behind glazing is you have two layers that sit on top of each other, a transparent layer over a background layer, and when the light goes through, it kind of bounces off both and they combine visually. So I can show you that this is the pure yellow I'm going to use. That's what it looks like on white paper. But then when I glaze it over the blue, you can see I can get a really neat green that is otherwise unavailable to you. If I pre-mixed it and then applied it, it would just look completely different than this. This is sort of a unique version of these two pigments being combined. And you can see how it retains the change in tone from dark to light to dark. It still has that, even though you're going over it with another color. So it's called glazing. That's a really useful technique. And then for this one, we'll show you a little bit of dry brush over the top. So I've got a nice background layer of a violet here, and I'm going to dry brush. Let's do this dark, I don't know what kind of blue this is, some kind of turquoise blue. So we're going to make this nice and rich. So dry brush, usually I'd have a spare sheet of paper, or if you're going to use the margins for this, you could certainly just do that. But I got the color into the brush, and it's pretty wet, so I'm going to actually get rid of most of it until I start getting those kind of streaky effects like that. And that's where the brush is dry enough that you can do dry brush effects. So if I just kind of drag it over the surface, it just catches the ridges of the paper. The paper has a nice rough surface, a nice tooth to it, and it catches those ridges and you get this rough kind of textural dry brush effect. That's what it's called, that's what it does. And so that's another way to combine layers of color to get them more interesting. That's also useful for like wood grain effects. If you're trying to capture something realistically that has wood grain, then dry brush is a great way to sort of imitate the way wood grain looks. It's kind of an old weathered gray barn kind of siding looking thing. So that could be like a wood fence or something, right? And then below, grass, vegetation is another really great, dry brush is really great for that. So let's get some green going, get that nice and dry. So I've got some green grass. And then once that dries, I can go in and glaze in another color, like this yellow ochre would be a really nice one to glaze in to give the ground. It's probably dry enough. I could go ahead and do that. Go in and then make the ground sort of So there's some patches of yellow grass and green grass, and it looks really nice. And you can throw in a few strokes, kind of coming up next to the fence or whatever. And then the shadows, again, in a bright, sunny day, some of the shadow areas might be a darker blue rather than, so I get in between the boards of my fence here. Maybe there's some cross boards that go across. Something like that. This is just off the top of my head, just screwing around. But yeah, this could get really interesting really fast with some of these dry brush techniques, okay? So yeah, there's a few examples of how we can combine colors. So cross-hatching, glazing, dry brush, layering, those kinds of things. All right, so until next time, talk to you soon.